For this one, we're diving into a really haunting narrative. It's told from the perspective of this entity that sees time not as some gift to be treasured, but as a heavy sentence that we all have to serve.
So, right off the bat, we get this chilling idea from our narrator, a figure we're going to get to know as the messenger. This one single, really challenging idea that our whole existence is just a countdown, not some treasure chest of opportunities. It pretty much sets the stage for everything that comes next.
Okay, so first up, a heavy sentence. Let's dig into the world this messenger lives in and the, grim reality they're bringing to the table.
So, who is this messenger exactly? Well, here's the thing. They're not some god you can pray to, or a demon you can strike a deal with. Nope. They are simply a silent observer, the actual personification of inevitability itself. This isn't really a character. It's more like a fundamental force of existence.
And check this out. The messenger carries this thing called the Lantern of Weeping Sand, and it's such a powerful symbol. It's literally forged from shattered hourglasses, and the sand inside, that represents every single interrupted life, every moment that was fated to end. Its light isn't there to give you hope. It only shines a light on those of us who are trapped in the gilded cages of our own making.
Now, you gotta understand, the messenger isn't just a passive observer. As they move through the world, they leave behind these jagged cracks in the ink-washed fabric of existence. What this tells us is that their truth is so powerful, so disruptive, that it literally changes reality. Nothing can stay the same after they pass by.
All right, now let's see how this all plays out in a real story. This one's called The Clockwork Heartbeat, and it's all about humanity's completely futile struggle to own time.
So, picture this. There's this young guy, and he's living in a doorless temple, basically a prison he built for himself. He's surrounded by the constant rhythmic ticking of clocks, and he's become totally obsessed with trying to master them, thinking he can somehow negotiate for just one more moment.
He is a total prisoner of his own anxiety, but here's the real kicker, the most crucial point. His deepest wounds, they don't bleed blood, they tick like a metronome. His very pain has become a countdown, a constant reminder of the one thing he is so desperately trying to control.
And this all leads to the climax of his story. The messenger shows up and delivers what's called the terrible honesty, a truth so fundamental it doesn't even need words.
And then, just like that, the messenger arrives, literally in the middle of a breath. And in this really profound, totally silent exchange, they force the young man to see his entire life, but in reverse. And why? So he can finally confront the original catastrophe of his being, that exact moment when his need to control the uncontrollable was born, the very source of all his suffering.
So this really lays out the two big opposing ideas, right? On one side, you have the human illusion, this belief that time is a gift we can spend or even master. And on the other, you've got the messenger's harsh reality. Time is a heavy sentence. It can't be owned, it can only be endured with the will to face it head on. And here it is, the lesson he finally learns, the terrible honesty. His suffering, it turns out, wasn't from time itself, but from his resistance to the truth of it. He finally realizes that surrender was the only real path to peace all along.
So if surrender is the answer, what does that actually look like? Well, this brings us to the core philosophy of the whole story, something called the logic of zero. It's the path that leads from all that human agony to a kind of spiritual grace.
The logic of zero, it's basically the state you hit when you finally stop trying to own the hours of your life. It means letting go of that desperate need to control every single moment, and instead just moving toward a pure, unburdened experience. This is the transformation that turns that heavy sentence into a source of real, profound strength.
So how do you even get there? Well, the source gives us this clear four-step path of unraveling. First, you have to acknowledge the wound, that anxious internal ticking. Second, you stop trying to possess everything. You just let go. Third, you simply experience the unraveling of your life without fighting it, accepting what comes. And finally, in that acceptance, you embrace the logic of zero.
And now, the story just zooms out. We go from this one person's internal struggle to something truly cosmic, and we see the messenger's ultimate purpose as the final witness at the void.
Yeah, this is the end game. The messenger's solemn duty isn't just about us, individuals, but about existence itself. At the very, very end of all things, they will stand at the edge of the void, the last witness, holding the final embers of the universe as it too finally comes to an end. And it's in that final moment, the entire perspective just flips on its head. The heavy sentence gets completely reframed. Suddenly, the burden of existence, when you see it from the finish line, isn't a tragedy anymore. It's a masterpiece, a beautiful, aesthetic journey that was worth witnessing all along.
When it's all over, when absolute stillness arrives and the last light fades, the messenger's job is done. And in that ultimate surrender, the final truth is revealed. Time is free from its burden. It no longer has to be measured, mastered, or possessed. And that leaves us with a really provocative thought, doesn't it? What if the greatest freedom isn't having more time, but freeing time itself from our desperate grasp?